Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to A Purpose-Driven Wife podcast. I'm your host, Trista LeBorn, and like I say in every episode before we get started, I love to have different guests over that just kind of, just are like-minded. We both, are just living the lifestyle, It may not be, what everybody else think, but, it's our lifestyle, and this is what we do as a mom, a wife, military spouse, entrepreneur, and everything in between. So today I have with me Mallory from, it's Living a Warrior Life. And so we're going to learn more about living a warrior life, okay? And so she's going to share with us her testimony and just, just basically what she's doing. And so Mallory, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Trista, for having me. I'm excited to be talking with you today.
So, Mallory, just so that, my listeners have an idea, just of who you are, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with living a warrior life.
Well, my name is Mallory, and I'm originally from Texas. I was born and raised there. And gosh, I feel like it's been such a journey since I met my husband back in 2010. Before that, I was pursuing a career in music. I actually have a Bachelor of Music. I play violin. And so that was kind of my dream, to be a professional violinist, to play in a symphony. And I kind of got into the management side of things. But I wasn't, super passionate about it. It was just kind of a way to make money.
Okay.
And then I met my husband in 2010 and got thrown into that world of the military life. I knew nothing about what it was like to be in the military, no family members that are in it. So it was a really neat learning experience through Mark, my husband now. And, I guess my biggest learning curve was when he deployed for the first time in 2011. And, we were engaged at that point. I tried to keep an optimistic mindset. He'll be fine. He'll come back, and I supportive as I could be while he was over there. But it was a really tough deployment. It was his first deployment. He got into situations that were, looking death in the face and all that. And then when he came back, I thought, oh, it's going to be okay. He was ready. He was prepared to go over there. He wanted to go. So there's not going to be any problem. Yeah. Continuing with that optimistic mindset. I discovered a lot as we kept going on. So then in 2011, it was almost 2 years after we met, he was deployed for the first time to Afghanistan. And, I tend to be a pretty optimistic person. So I tried to be really optimistic about the whole thing, not try to think of any, try not to think on the dark side and just be supportive and send him care packages, keep the spirits up and all that, just to be the best support I could for him while he was gone. We were engaged at that point. And, it wasn't easy. It was definitely really, really hard, especially when, I would get a call saying, oh, he was in this bad firefight or a rollover accident. There were things that happened that really impacted him in a negative way. But I, tried to keep my head up and say it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then he came back and things were okay for the first few months after he got back. I didn't really notice anything that was out of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. But then I noticed he came back in April of 2012, and then it was around June or July that I started noticing that things were a bit different. And since I love writing, not just blogging, I've always journaled a lot. So I kept a very detailed journal during the deployment and after the deployment. And I remember writing, like it was June or July of that year, that things are different. He's not as affectionate. He's doesn't seem as emotional, like his emotions were shut down a lot. And he just, his personality just seemed not like it was before. So that's when I started thinking, oh, well, maybe something is maybe off. And he had suffered a traumatic brain injury in a rollover accident he was in. but I had read up on it, like about mild traumatic brain injuries, and everything I read said, oh, it should be resolved after 3 months. You know, there shouldn't be any residual anything. And I was like, well, he can't have PTSD. Like, that can't be it. Like,
yeah.
So I was in denial at that point. And I thought, and this was the worst thing that I did. I thought it was me. I blamed myself. I tried to take on, you know, the problems and think, oh, if I would have said this differently or done this differently, he wouldn't have gotten angry or shut down. Cause I'm the oldest of my family. I'm the oldest of 4. And so I have that, you know, kind of motherly instinct, want to take care of everything, want to take responsibility for everything. But, it can be a negative thing sometimes when you try to take responsibility when it's not really your problem. Yeah. So I was doing that a lot. In those first, like when I first started seeing that things were not normal, like not what they were before.
Yeah.
So I think looking back, that was my biggest mistake is, you know, trying to take responsibility when it wasn't my responsibility to take, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And so, I mean, okay, so now so basically you guys are new. Like, you were engaged and then he gets deployed during this time. Like you said, you try to stay positive, even during dangerous, you know, situations. He comes back. Now he seems different, right? And so, you know, how did you deal with that? And I know you said that before, that you kind of blamed yourself, you know. So in addition to that, you know, but you guys are engaged, you know. How did you guys kind of work through, okay, we're getting married now, and then you are, you know, kind of working through that?
Yeah. Well, at first we didn't work through it.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of there, you know, and in the background. I think neither of us were really acknowledging it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I on my own did a lot of praying, just, oh my gosh, like how am I going to get through this? I just kind of, and at that point we were 3 hours apart. He was down at Fort Hood and I was up in the Dallas area.
Yeah.
And so we would see each other maybe like twice a month, 2 to 3 times a month. So sometimes it was okay, you know, since we were far apart. You know, we didn't even really talk every day just because we were both very busy. But when we were together is when it was more difficult, because then you would actually, you know, you're interacting, and when that interaction is not what it used to be, it's difficult. So, I guess, I'm just trying to think of the timeline here. That Christmas, that was 2012. So that Christmas was really hard. He was with his family for Christmas, but then he was with my family for New Year's, and that was really difficult, just dealing with all the, you know, the happy times. And, you know, when you come back from a deployment, you don't view the world the same as you did before. Yeah. And so that was difficult for me to deal with, and also for my family, because they didn't really understand either. And I didn't really understand. So I couldn't even really explain what was going on to them. That, I would say the holidays are probably the most difficult times, when you are a soldier dealing with PTSD and other issues like that. So I was going to say, did you guys get married already? At that point, we weren't married yet. In 2013, we had a civil marriage, so we just went to the courthouse because he deployed again in 2013. Yeah. So, by that point, things had started to get a little better. Like, we were at least talking about the problem of acknowledging PTSD. Yeah. My husband has a twin brother who's also a combat veteran. And so, you know, they talk a lot. They really understand each other. They have their twin language. They totally understand what the other is going through. So I actually, when things got really bad and I just didn't know what to do, I think at the beginning of 2013, I actually talked to his brother and I said, you know, I don't understand what's going on. I know you know Mark, you've known him forever, for your whole life. Mm-hmm. And can you give me any insight into what's going on? And so he was the one that said, well, I believe that he is suffering from PTSD and probably residual effects from the TBI. And he talked to my husband. He didn't say, oh, Mallory talked to me, but right. He talked to him. And after he talked to him, I noticed that things started to get better. So whatever he said to him was, in that brother language,
yes.
Both combat veteran and real brother, must have been pretty powerful. So I saw that he was trying to make a better effort to keep that like fight or flight,
mm-hmm.
Under control,
mm-hmm.
Which I was very grateful for. So then, in 2013, we got married at the courthouse, and then a couple weeks later, he deployed for the second time. And of course, I was very afraid that things would be even worse when he came back the second time. But then during that deployment is when I discovered essential oils, and that kind of revolutionized how I started to handle things.
So before we go deeper, can you explain to our listeners what TBI is?
Sure. TBI stands for traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of different types of traumatic brain injury. There's mild, moderate, and severe. And then some traumatic brain injuries can be from like a puncture wound, like a shrapnel goes through and into the brain. Or a lot of times, it's just from, like getting rattled, your brain gets rattled, you hit your head, or,
yeah.
In the case of my husband, he was in a rollover accident. So their vehicle rolled about 50 feet down, pretty much straight down a mountainside. He got knocked out. Usually there's some kind of, with a TBI, there's sometimes, you're unconscious for a short time. So his was diagnosed as a mild traumatic brain injury, or MTBI. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I felt like, oh, it's mild, it's not that big of a deal. Interestingly, I recently read that a new study or something that came out about TBI is that mild traumatic brain injury is actually a misnomer. So there's not really such a thing as a mild traumatic brain injury. And just because you have one that's labeled as such doesn't mean that the residual effects are going to be mild. So,
okay. So, before we go any further, I don't know if you talked about this, but do you have any children?
We do not right now. We just have a dog. Okay.
So when he came back from deployment, he had that. So is the TBI part of the PTSD, or that's just one thing?
Yeah, they're separate. A lot of times they're comorbid, which means they happen at the same time. They occur simultaneously.
Yeah.
And a lot of the symptoms are the same, but treatment is different. So if you're trying to treat somebody with PTSD treatment, but they actually have a TBI, it could actually make it worse because you're not addressing the problem. Yeah.
Okay, and so the symptoms that he had, he was diagnosed with PTSD, and one of those symptoms was just like he was just different when he came back. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, unable to express emotion except for anger, being hypervigilant. So he was not good with going out in a crowd. Even crowded restaurants were difficult to be in. He would get very upset sometimes. Not sleeping very well, things like that. So just very, not very sociable. Yeah.
So, so even during that time when he got back, and then how you guys were dealing with it up until, you were talking about how you guys got married, that must have been difficult because of the fact that, like, neither one of you knew, like, what was going on. You just kind of knew that it was different. Now know that, whenever he talks to his brother, that, things are better, Mm-hmm. So when did you guys get help? Was it when he got diagnosed? And then what I mean by that is him getting help and you as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, he didn't get the official diagnosis until his pre-deployment health assessment before the second deployment. And that
Okay.
was in June of 2013. So it's kind of just like, oh yeah, you have PTSD and we're going to send you off again.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Which is, I had people question me like, oh my gosh, like, why are they sending him again?
Yeah.
But that's just how it worked out. And so he went again. And so I guess, he didn't really get any counseling or anything when he was diagnosed, because he just went over there. And during that deployment, I did start to seek help. I joined a group from Hope for the Home Front. I think it's, Hope for the Home Front. And so they had a virtual support group for Wounded Warrior wives. So we would meet once a week. We'd be on a Skype video, or like a GoToMeeting thing. And so we would just talk, and we had a devotional that we went through together, and would just talk about that and then try to work through our experiences and trying to find ways to heal, to help ourselves deal with the situation better. And so that was really helpful to me, because up to that point, at this point, I was still living in Dallas. And so I had no military community around, and I was just kind of on my own with this. Yes. So to have that virtual support group of other military spouses that knew exactly what I was going through was really, really powerful.
And that's something, because that's actually beautiful, because of the fact that a lot of military spouses crave community, like, especially, and then you talked about how you were still in Dallas, but, as a military spouse, or even when you have someone close to you that's going through something like this in the military, like you need a community, like you need help. And so just, and a lot of, and it's not just with PTSD, it can just because of the fact that you move to a new area and you don't know nobody, like you need community, and so, and whether, just you as a military spouse, you're not that typical person where you would just go up to people, kind of thing. But you still need community, even if you're not that, where you're basically like an introvert, you still need that community. And so even when you deal with something as serious as, PTSD, I've actually had a friend, her husband was PTSD, who had PTSD. And so what she shared with me was that, like she would literally cry because of the fact that she didn't have anybody to talk to. Like she didn't, she didn't have anybody to discuss. Like, I have no idea what to do. Like, my husband does this and I have no idea what to do, And so,
right.
And it's not funny, but like she was kind of making it like kind of like a joke, but she honestly did not have someone, to talk to about this, and so
right.
Can you kind of go just a little bit deeper with, when you found that community, how it helped you cope?
Yeah. That was really the first time I could talk to anybody. And I had a couple of close friends from work that I would also talk with, and, they were very supportive, but they also hadn't gone through the same thing. So, that was helpful in itself. I appreciated that. But then having a community of military spouses that I could talk with and know that, hey, it's not your fault. It's not something that you're doing or not doing, because and I still struggle with that. I still struggle with the blaming myself or, okay, I need a control situation. I still kind of fall back into that because that was what I just automatically did. And it's kind of like that behavior tape that you play for yourself is, oh, I need to fix it. I need to fix things. But yeah, being able to talk with other women who had also been dealing with this problem longer than I had, they were married for, 10, 20 years and still dealing with it and had figured out ways to cope was very comforting to me because, if you try explaining to civilians like, oh, my husband is withdrawn, or he gets angry when he's in a crowded restaurant or whatever. Like, it sounds so foreign to them, I think,
yes.
or some.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sounds like, oh, well, he's crazy. Which is not the case.
Yeah.
But it can be embarrassing sometimes to talk about, the symptoms, because it's just, people don't like talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They don't like talking about psychological issues.
And
it's just uncomfortable in general.
And I'm sure that's tough, because, and I'm sure for him too, for him to just, I don't, like, he sometimes have to decline certain activities,
Exactly. Yeah. It can be difficult for, him and me, trying, and he's the type of person that feels like he doesn't really need to explain himself, but I'm more the person that wants to explain. But then it's awkward trying to explain sometimes. So I thought, before we got married, I never thought to myself, oh, I want to leave the relationship. But there were times that I thought, is this how it's going to be for the rest of our lives?
Yeah.
How am I going to do this? And so that was a very daunting thought to have, how old was I? 26, 27. Is this going to be how it is? Is he always going to be this way? And I will say that things have progressed in a good direction, thankfully.
So I was going to say, how did it start to, get better? You explained the essential oils. Can you go deeper in that?
Sure. Well, my mom is actually the one that introduced me to them. She went to a class because our family has always been into more natural forms of healthcare and things. So she went to the free class she found out about, and I was living at home at the time while Mark was deployed. And so she came home and told me about the class, and I said, oh, that sounds awesome. I want to learn about these things. They sound fun and smell good. And so I went to a class a few weeks later and was just blown away by the information. And at that point, I was also dealing with health problems. I think partly brought on by the stress of Mark's PTSD and deployments and everything. And so I was looking for answers for myself for many different things. So I started using them. I started using some supplements, as well, that my essential oil company offers. And let's see, that was September of 2013.
Okay.
And I was having some great results. I was feeling a lot better. I had a lot more energy, less brain fog, all that kind of stuff. And I think it was around Christmas of that year. We were talking on Skype, and I said, well, are you taking any supplements or anything? I want to send you some things for you to try. Just tell me what you think. There's no pressure, to say you like it or not. I just want to see what you think. And so he's like, sure. So after 30 days, I asked him, how's it going? You've taken it for a month. What do you think? And he said that he felt more energy. He was sleeping better, and he had better mental clarity. And I was blown away. I almost cried when he told me that, because it was the very first time that in our whole journey with PTSD that I felt like I could concretely help him. I found these things, they had helped me, and now they were helping him, and he was totally on board with it. He was like, you need to send me more. And it was just great. I mean, it was a great feeling, because I was finally seeing him being helped. Because like I said before, by that point, he hadn't even gone to any counseling or anything for his problems. So, it was just amazing. So he's continued to do the same routine ever since, and it's been great. Again, not a cure-all, there's no magic bullet out there, of course, but just to have something that improves quality of life, improves sleep, just if you don't sleep well, then nothing's going to go well. And sleep issues can oftentimes be a big part of PTSD.
Wow, that is beautiful. And I understand when you say that it's not a cure-all, because the essential oils is just like a natural, oil, and it's not like supposed to cure any or everything like that, but it's helping,
Exactly.
Naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, and it wasn't something I expected. It was just like kind of let's try it and see.
Yeah.
So just going into it with an open mind was really great.
And so just ever since then, now you have witnessed, something that is helping your husband that you've been looking for. Well, I guess, like you said, it's not something that you've been looking, but hey, this is something, I like it, if you don't like it, it's whatever kind of thing. But he likes it and then wants more, so that's giving you that drive to just go deeper, to want more,
Exactly. Yeah. And after he came back from that second appointment, that was in February of 2013, a couple months later, we had our church wedding. So all the family and everything, the big celebration, and it went great. There were some tough times, you have bumps in the road, like,
yes.
I remember at our rehearsal dinner, we had it at my grandma's house. It was very, kind of low key. But he and his brother and parents were in another room talking, and I walked in, and it was such a serious conversation going on. And the boys, Mark and his brother Matt, almost looked like they're going to cry, but they were just kind of explaining to their parents, what deployment was like and how celebrations can be hard, even though they're a good thing, it can be hard, with a lot of people and just this overabundance of happiness, I guess. It sounds strange to say, but, when you look at the world from a different viewpoint after seeing such stuff, all that in it, on that. So that, that was kind of tough. I sat there and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're having a conversation like the night before our wedding, such a happy time. But the day went well, the wedding day was beautiful and everything I hoped it would be. And then we, moved to our next duty station in Arizona and kind of started our journey together, as a military couple. But, right after he got back from the second deployment, he did go to counseling. He said he felt that it sometimes made things worse having to bring up incidents that he experienced.
Yeah.
But now, and there were some times when, we would start talking about things, or I would bring things up and he would say, never bring that up again. But recently there have been times where he has actually brought up the incident and we can actually talk about it. So, things are improving, and that's a big step, to actually talk about it and not feel that, such a big fight or flight rush.
And I'm sure that is such a huge blessing because, like you said, there were things that he felt we're never going to discuss that, but then he's bring up that forbidden topic, so that is a blessing, and so so you feel that the essential oils played a part in that?
I do. Yeah. I mean, and how it's so interesting when you really research into how essential oils work and how they interact with the brain and the emotions and like the they're aromatic compounds. So they can affect the emotions very quick, within milliseconds. And so what they do when you inhale the aroma, it immediately goes to the amygdala, which is where your emotions are stored.
Yep.
And I was watching a webinar on essential oils once, and they were talking about the amygdala and how there are certain brain scans, very high tech, that can actually detect PTSD on a brain scan because the amygdala is inflamed.
Wow.
Which is amazing. I'd never heard that before. You can detect traumatic brain injury on a brain scan because it's, physical, rattling or jarring of the brain. Mm-hmm. But, it's very interesting that with PTSD, the amygdala is inflamed, which is where the emotions are stored. And oftentimes with PTSD, you have problems with your emotions, expressing them or having them. So every time, you inhale an essential oil that is good for the emotions, that helps with that process of, reconciling with it, or, being able to handle those emotional memories. So I think that has definitely played a part. There's some oils that he does not like the smell of. Like I remember when he first came back that second time, and I had put on frankincense, which I love frankincense. He hated it. He said it reminded him of a funeral home. And he said, never put that on around me again. So I didn't. And then just this past week, actually, I was on Sunday, we were sitting in church with my family in Texas, and my mom was putting frankincense on her arm. She had an itchy spot, so she pulled out her bottle during church and was rubbing it on, and Mark leans over to me, he's like, what's that smell? I really like that. And I said, that's frankincense. And he's like, really? This look on his face was like, that's frankincense? And so the body, it's really interesting because essential oils can help change your body chemistry. And also our body chemistry just changes over time. And so my mom said, oh, your body chemistry has probably changed and you like it now. So
wow,
that was very, very fascinating. Also because frankincense is a great oil for the brain. It's like the number one oil for the brain.
Oh, is it?
It is, yeah. It's wonderful for all sorts of things. So that, for what it's worth, I don't know, but it was very, very interesting how things.
So, oh my goodness, that is awesome. So can you, I guess, talk about like how you guys are now? I don't know if that's a part of it, but how are you guys doing now as a couple?
I have to say, overall, we're doing great. Looking back, there's been times over the past year that I thought I never imagined things to be the way they are now.
Yeah.
When you're in the throes of feeling like you're helpless and that there's, it's never going to get better, it's really hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But now, our communication is so much better. We can talk through things. If there's something that's bothering us or an incident that happened, they can talk through it. There was Christmas went this was the best Christmas that I have had for several years since he first deployed. And for him, it went pretty well too. And, it's just, I think the biggest thing for us was acknowledging there's a problem and just working on it. Because if you continually bury something, it's just going to stay that way.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for where we are now. Of course, there's always times where it comes back, PTSD comes to the surface again.
Yeah.
But like I said before, I sometimes still handle it as if it's my problem, I think, if I could control the situation, but I tell him, the difference now is that I tell him that. I say, I wish I could have controlled the situation. And he says, you can't, he said, it's not up to you to control the situation. And so it's good. It's really good for both of us to acknowledge that.
So, I mean, it's a growing process, I guess, for both of you guys, it's still a healing process for both of you guys, but you guys have found something that works for you guys. Exactly.
Yep.
That is a blessing.
It is. And I'm very grateful for how things have worked out. And it's, the essential oils, I wasn't even looking for that. Kind of just fell into my lap at the right time. If you want to call that providence or luck or whatever, it was exactly what we needed. So I'm really, really grateful.
So, so last question, actually 2 questions. One, so what do you do on the blog? What kind of things do you share on there and things like that? And then 2, what is one thing that you would kind of, share with a spouse that's haven't found something that helps, for her relationship and, the spouse may have PTSD or TBI, what would you say to that person?
Sure. So about the blog, so it's called Living a Warrior Life, and the reason I named it that is partly because my husband's a soldier and he's a warrior, but also because I believe that we all can be warriors in whatever we're passionate about. So whether that's music or cooking or, fitness, whatever it is, you can be really passionate, and you should be really passionate about whatever it is that moves you.
Yeah.
So that's why I named it that. And I really love, I guess my three focuses on the blog are military life, nutrition, healthy eating, fitness, and then essential oils. So those are three things that I'm really passionate about, and I love writing about and sharing with people about those things. So,
okay.
And then for the spouse out there who is maybe in the situation that I was in, a couple of years ago, with learning about PTSD or discovering your spouse has PTSD, I think one thing that I actually just realized recently was it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have to fix everything at once. And to start out with, you can't change anybody except yourself. So I would say try to work on yourself first and take care of you, because if you're not taking care of you, you can't help anybody else. So really, examine how you're handling yourself. Self-care is huge. I guess I didn't really touch on that, but really take care of yourself, because it will get to you. I promise it will get to you eventually if you don't have proper self-care. So.
And that spills into every area, like being able to be there for your spouse, that, your spouse needs you, even though he or she may not be saying it, they still kind of need you to kind of be there. If you're empty and not feeling well, or, whatever the case is, how are you going to help anybody else, let alone your spouse,
I do, yeah, and I'm very open on my blog too about PTSD. I actually did a blog series a couple of years ago, right after we found out about the official diagnosis. I think it was a 4 or 5 part series about PTSD, so you can Google that or search that on the blog.
Okay.
Just go through what PTSD is, like the clinical definition and how it's diagnosed, to what our journey, our personal journey, and then how to handle it as well. So that's on there. I last year I wrote about how the holidays are difficult for veterans, especially with PTSD. And I know some people found it really depressing, but I felt compelled to give a voice to those who feel like they don't have an outlet, because a lot of veterans, again, don't like talking about it, but I feel that they deserve that voice, because people might not understand if they have to remove themselves from a celebration, or why they're not reveling in, traditions. It's difficult. So I'm very open about that. Try to be honest about it.
Oh, that is awesome. And so, if there are listeners that are out here that would like to get in contact with you, how can they learn more about your blog and get in contact with you?
Sure. Well, the blog is livingawarriorlife.com. Mm-hmm. And on there, on the sidebar, if you go to the blog, there's a button at the top that says blog. And then on the right sidebar, there's a contact me form. So that'll come to me as an email. And you can, submit questions or anything, if you just want to talk about PTSD or what your struggles are. That's what I did also, is I reached out to somebody that I knew who had gone through the same thing for help. So don't walk it alone. It's a very, very long road if you try to do that. So don't try to do it on your own. There's a lot of people who want to help. So.
That is awesome. And guys, Mallory, thank you so much for sharing, for just being vulnerable and sharing, your testimony. And guys, everything that she has spoke about, will be on my blog, A Purpose Driven Wife, at adrivenwife.com, and even links to how you can get in contact with her, as well as her website and social media outlets as well. So again, Mallory, thank you, and you guys have a blessed day.
Thank you, Trista.
Hello, everyone. This is Trista, and I wanted to just kind of say a few words before I completely end this episode. So you may be wondering, Trista, why did you totally from marriage, talking about sex, and then now you're talking about PTSD. What's going on, Trista? So I want to share with you guys that in the military, there will be ups and downs, okay? I am here simply to encourage you and to share with you tools and, of course, share with you testimonies from different people that are going through different things, even while they have their own business or whatever the case may be. I want to share that with you guys to let you know, number one, that you are not alone. Number two, that if you are going through the same situation as what we just talked about with Mallory, there is help. Not only that, there's hope. Okay, Mallory was able to share that things are going well with her and her husband during this time. That she shared with while her husband has PTSD, and so she shared what has helped them. And so in addition to sharing different testimonies and having different people come up here and sharing with you different topics, but my main purpose really is to share with you and really encourage you that there is hope, okay? And it may come in different ways, but ultimately I want to share and tell you guys that, number one, the Word of God, God can definitely help you guys. And like I said, it may come in different ways, and I'm not just strictly, discounting, medication or seeking help or anything like that, not at all. But like I said, in addition to prayer, all of those things can help, okay? And so that is where the hope is. So again, you are not alone. I'm here to encourage you guys. Every Monday, I share different testimonies and different stories with you guys here on the podcast. Again, letting you know that you are not alone. There's hope, and I'm here to encourage you guys, okay? And so, again, if you or anyone that is suffering from PTSD, on my website is plenty of tools. Mallory is there to offer help or share with you or just kind of talk with you guys if you're looking for someone to reach out. I am very big when it comes to community, especially in the military community, okay? Please reach out to someone. Mallory is one of them that you can reach out to. And then in addition to that, I put on my website resources for those that are seeking help or just some type of hope. Okay. And I want to share that with you guys because, this is Mallory's story and there are tons of other stories that's out there. And so I want to, again, encourage you guys to seek out that help. Don't do this alone. Please seek out the help, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless.